Good morning, traders. Today is Wednesday, December 8th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. All right, well, the overnight basically just rotated. They explored higher prices, but then they came and they just kind of rotated around just above where we traded last night. So it was a rotational night for the overnight market, but rotating to higher, which is a little bit bullish to see. You would think the overnight inventory would be net long. It's a little bit net long, but obviously they've already absorbed a lot of that long exposure to get them back down to almost the opening price. So the reason I'm starting so zoomed out today is just to point out that excess requires balance, right? On this chart, it's a little bit harder to see at the moment on the market profile. We can use that to see very easily the excess, right, which was from here all the way up into here. That's all the excess. But then to see the balance, it's actually easier to look at the regular candlesticks. So you can see this is the excess here. And then since then, we've just balanced, right? We've just kind of gone sideways. This is called balancing with time as opposed to price, okay? Important thing to note just to understand what's happening with the market. As far as what to expect when the market opens in a minute, we're opening inside the previous day's range. There's not much overnight inventory to absorb, so I think chop is the most likely. If we are able to get above yesterday's high and find support, I'd be looking for continuation. The one thing I would note, though, is the balancing area. Okay, the overnight inventory went up and tested that balancing area high, and it had a look above and fail, like a crystal clear look above and fail. Okay, so the market is open. So just like it did back here, where it went up, whoops, come on, computer, keep up. Just like back here, when it went up, look above and fail, look below and fail, look above and fail, down to the opposite end, look above and fail, look below and fail, back to the opposite end, look below and fail. Just like every time we got to one end, we turned around and headed to the other. This is the balancing area low. This is the balancing area high. Okay. We could be starting that process again. Obviously, I don't know. We might break out above it and just continue higher. But it does count if it happens in the overnight. That's the one time where we can look at the overnight is oftentimes when it comes to balance rules, the overnight play into it. So this look above and fail could mean we need to trade down to the opposite end of balance, which is going to be around 46.60. Or it looks like 46.63. Purely as a balance rule play. Okay, and like I said, I'm just expecting some chop here early in the morning. Good morning, Philip, Scooball, Jay Trader, Cyrus, Diego, David Glass. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you. Cotton Dog, Charles, at some point in the morning, could you discuss how you carry forward your reference levels from one contract to the next? Yeah, I'm probably going to roll over on Monday. I think the official rollover is Friday. I'll wait till Monday when there's a little more liquidity. My thought process on rollovers is always, it doesn't really matter when exactly you do it. Just that you make sure you're looking at whatever chart you're trading. Don't look at an old chart because it has more volume and then trade on a different one. And the levels is a great question. I don't have a good answer for that because they don't line up. But I always just I leave my old references where they were on the previous chart, and then I still just use them as normal. And then on the new chart, I start to create new references. So if there's something that's like within the last day or two, so like let's say, for example, we had a poor high yesterday. And let's say this morning I rolled over to the new contract and we hadn't repaired it yet. Obviously, we repaired it first thing this morning. But let's say we hadn't repaired it yet. Let's say we opened down here. I would go in and correct that poor high to be wherever it was on the new contract. But the older stuff, I just leave it where it is. David V, JG, Phoenix, Scooball, Steven, Peter, Nor Auto Trader, Alexander, all in the house. Good to see you guys. Welcome. Getting that chop, chop, chop. Choppity Chopsville. So once again, to get continuation higher, we got to get above that high from yesterday and then find support. Come back down, find support. That will be continuation higher. As far as the downside goes, if we got below this node right here, so I'm looking at the cumulative volume, this node over here at 46.72, I would target the balance area low. I know it's not that big of a trade, 70 to 63, 7 points. But that would be a pretty obvious sign that we had to look above and fail the balancing area, targeting the balancing area low. But in the middle here, it's probably just going to chop around for a bit. Vincent, welcome to you. Insane Creations, welcome to you. Happy to have you. Arthur, good morning. Scooball. Diego, James. Shubaho Deep back with us. Shubaho's scent of all-time highs coming up again. Yeah, I mean, the first target is getting back above that balancing area high, right? Up here. We looked up there and failed in the overnight. Pretty extreme. Nothing but excess up there. So, yeah, if we get back above that, though, those all-time highs will be the next stop. Nothing in between. Phoenix, yeah, the continual contract is great for like moving averages and stuff. So for those of you guys that don't know, you can get a futures contract that shows where they combine them all together, and it won't have exactly the same levels as one that's just this month's. And that can be kind of useful for the longer term moving averages and stuff like that. Bob, good morning to you. Design Knob, good to see you. Jose, welcome. Mark, good morning to you. Would I call the A low weak because it's the overnight low? It's a great question. Jim Dalton certainly would. I mean, yeah, weak as in, does it have a higher probability of getting repaired? Sure. The market's, when it's chopping like this, it needs to explore price up and down. So, yeah. It seems like a cop out to say it right now as we get there, but yeah, we will probably get a few more ticks lower. So again, I'm looking at this node of volume right here as support. As long as we stay above that, the chop will continue. But if we break below that, we're heading down to the opposite end of balance, which is down at 46.6325. I'll go ahead and mark that as the last support. Can we take a look at the NQ? Yes, we can. Let's see what the Q looks like this morning. Q did exactly the same thing, tested a balancing area high in the overnight, and then immediately pulled back down. So both markets could be bouncing inside a balancing area right now. But same as the ES, I just see the NQ as chop for the moment. And of course, the NQ has much further to go to get to its balancing area low, which is at 15,996. So same as the ES, I would just use this volume node right here as your last potential support. So that's going to be the 16,175-ish area. If that fails, the target becomes the balancing area low. That would also allow us to repair a lot of the excess left behind from yesterday. So 2 ways to repair off excess. You can do it with time or you can do it with price. Time would look something like this, trading up to here and then kind of just grinding around for a little bit, maybe a few days, absorbing that big move. Price would look like this, trading up and then selling way back down, looking for support there or even there. So the ES, like I said, has very little resistance above its balancing area high. Between there and the all-time high, the NQ is a lot more resistance. So if it gets above that balancing area high, it's got multiple sets of single prints down. All of these should act as resistance if we do break out today before we can get up to that all-time high. But in both cases, if we can get above the overnight high from last night, it will be very bullish for continuation. So we just got to wait out the chop. Let the market pick a direction. Or decide it wants to go sideways. Peter, I wouldn't call it a test. It happened within 2 minutes and price moved 75 points. Someone just pushed and dumped. That's what a test is, brother. They push it and then they see if new buyers step in. And if they don't, it dumps. But yeah, I get you. Happening in 2 minutes is really fast. Tom and Nicholas, good morning to you. Cotton Dog, it's reasonable to look at internals right now, right? Because the overnight had basically absorbed most of its own activity. So what do I mean by that? Let me stretch out the overnight. That might make it easier. Oh, actually, that's quite interesting the way they did that. So, they pushed all the way up to here. That would fuck up the internals. But then they absorbed it all before we even opened right here. They absorbed, 80% of the move. So we just had a little tiny bit of overnight activity left to absorb. But for the most part, and actually you would say really from yesterday's open. So all we really had to absorb was this right here. So that first push down would have done it. So you can look at the internals right now. My guess is they're not telling us anything, though. More buyers than sellers, but nothing to get too excited about. Alexander, thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Yeah, I caught something. I'm going to go get a COVID test later. I don't think it's COVID, but I had a nasty fever last night. Bow, bow. You know what I do at a market open? I smash the like button. Thank you, brother. 108 people watching, 35 likes. If you're happy I called the chop so you didn't get yourself long or short early in the morning, please smash that like button. Donkey. No, it would have been this weekend. I went out drinking. 777 Athletic, how much capital did I have to start trading with? Well, the way I learned to trade was just through continually putting more and more money in. So I would fund an account with $5,000 and then I'd blow it up, a month or two later. And then I'd fund it with another $5,000 and blow it up again. I would say all in, I probably lost $30,000 before I became profitable. But I wouldn't recommend that to other people. If I could go back in time and talk to my younger self, I would say just fucking paper trade, bro. Don't use real money. And it's so funny when I think about it now because for years, I was basically just guessing. I'd learned, to read different signals and candlestick patterns and all of those type of things. But really, I was just sitting in front of the computer every day, going with my gut. Do I feel like it's going to go up, go long? If not, go short. And yeah, I had to learn those lessons the hard way. But I wouldn't recommend that to others. Trading Donkey, that is very wise of you, man. I love hearing that. He says market should be pinned like a mofo today, even more than yesterday. Trading paper. Broke too many rules yesterday. That is great discipline. Marco, no, we just need to pay in order to learn the pain. See, but that's where I disagree. I think you start by learning a system. You learn to be able to read the market. You learn to understand risk reward. You learn to understand managing, money management and how to size your trades. Then you switch to real money. You do all of that on paper. Then you switch to real money. And yes, you have a whole new set of lessons you have to learn because you have to now learn how to control your emotions in a way you didn't with paper. But then that's the only thing you have to work on is your psychology instead of trying to learn it all at the same time. The analogy that I use is like, they don't teach a doctor how to perform surgery on like a live patient, right? They start on dummies and on, dead bodies and things like that. And you work your way up to performing surgery on a live patient. You don't learn to play an instrument on a stage in front of a crowd. You learn at home, alone, over years and years, and then you get out on stage. That, to me, is the equivalent of trading with real money. All right, so now that we're above yesterday's high, we can look for support around yesterday's high. If we get it, we're likely to get some continuation higher. So that's right where those two nodes of volume are, around 92. Internals look good for a push higher. So don't FOMO in, wait for the pullback, but the support probably viable if they can hold it up above yesterday's high or around yesterday's high. Tom B, what is MOFO? It stands for motherfucker. RK, you don't see the donkey anymore? Maybe you blocked him. Or maybe he blocked you. Donkey, do you block people? Did you block RK? He's saying no, he didn't block you. All right, well, they're bringing in volume above yesterday's high, so that's bullish to see. Internals look great for a push higher. I'd still like to backfill this level with only 100 contracts right here at like 93. But if we find support there, we could get continuation up to the balancing area high. All right, so here's where we look for support, and we're not getting it. Okay, well, that's a failed breakout so far. NQ's a little bit weaker than the ES here. Probably needs a bit more of a pullback. All right, they both need a pullback. The chop continues. Nunez, you want a parrot that's just like, smash the like, like and subscribe. Brian, NQ getting rotational on Vax News. Well, it doesn't have to be because of Vax News. Like I said, we've had a lot of excess. We need to balance. If we're going to balance with time, we'll just grind around. Could look something like this. Boom, 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 boom for a couple of days. Or we pull back down with price. We shall see. Rocket. There you go. That's a great way to go viral. Buy a parrot, train it to say terrible things, start filming myself, put a little camera of me in the corner, and just let my parrot talk all day. Samuel, great question. What do I mean about getting to the top of the balancing area? It's a great excuse to zoom on out. Zoom, zoom. Oh man, I don't even have enough data back here to show all this. Hold on. So the market does this thing where it creates what are called balancing areas, okay? So essentially, draw a line up here around these highs. Draw a line down here around these lows. Okay? And what happens is when it gets above that balancing area, it rotates to the opposite end. Okay? If it looks below and it doesn't continue lower, it rotates up to the other end. If it looks above and doesn't get anywhere, it rotates back down. Now here it didn't quite make it to the other end. But that's not that unusual. Sometimes it only makes it halfway. Rotates back up, looks above, fails, heads down to the other end. Finds support, rotates back up to the other end. Looks above, fails, rotates down. Successfully breaks out of balance, tries to get back up in there, and fails. So what does it do? Sell off further, right? And then as soon as we got back up into that balancing area, boop, we immediately went to the opposite end. So the market will tend to do this. It'll bounce around in these areas until it successfully looks above, comes back down and finds support. That's when it's ready to break out to the upside. Like it found resistance here, right? You could see it tried to break back in and it couldn't, and that's what led to the excess to the downside. That was a break out of balance. Balance leads to excess. Excess, this big move up, leads to balance. Brian, the news came out that Omnicore is no issue for the Vax with boosters. Yeah, they're saying you have to have all three. You have to have the 2 original and a booster. But yeah, travel, etc., catching bids. Well, there you go. So is balance like support and resistance? Yeah, it is. It's the same concept, but it's what's so powerful about it is recognizing that you move often from one end to the other right away, right? That it's not a normal support or resistance. So you might have thought yesterday, as the market was pushing higher, that you would find some resistance here at that previous balancing area low. But when you didn't, when you pushed right back through it, the next thought is targeting the balancing area high, which they did in the overnight. So that's kind of how it works, is it gives you, and it often, like, that's the thing, is it often feels like it shouldn't work that way. It really does give you an edge, especially with the look above and fails. It'll always feel like the market's going to go much higher. It'll feel like everything's really bullish. But then as soon as it pulls back down into the range, if you trust balancing rules, you can go short for a swing trade to get back down to the opposite end, because it just often does. But often it's not always. It's just one data point to consider. The way Shadow Trader teaches the look above and fail and look below and fail is that when it looks back in, when you look above and you get back in, you go short. Whoops. You look above, you fail back in, you go short on the reentry with a stop above the high. And you target the opposite end. And if you successfully break out of balance, you target double the size of the balancing area. So if we push back up, come back down, find support here, you go long with your stop just below that balancing area high, and you target double the size of the balancing area to the upside. Man, this really is a chop fest. Donkey might be right. So when do I start taking rotational trades? When I wait for the signal, I wait for the C period to get above the B period high and then back below it, or to get above and then the D period gets below the C at some point like that. But I don't want to take the rotational trades yet. Rotational trades meaning going short above value, long below, targeting the POC. Samuel, where can you learn to identify balancing areas? From experience. I just told you what they look like. So now the next time you see the market start to do that, it pushes up to a new level. Okay, it makes a high. It comes back down. It finds support. Say to yourself, is this a balancing area high? Is this a balancing area low? And then watch what happens. The next time it gets up there, does it get resistance right there? If it does, target the opposite end. And just, week after week after week of watching these things happen over and over again, you'll begin to be able to recognize them. Obviously, the sooner you can see it, the more valuable it is, because sometimes they only last for a couple of bounces and then they break out. Jack, where does my bounce area low come from? Just from wherever it found support resistance before. It's been there for a long time. It's been there for a month. Actually, no, I put it in there with this resistance here. Originally, I thought the bouncing area was tighter. I thought it was a shorter bouncing area. Yeah, so when we first started to do it, I called the bouncing area high right away. And then I think I thought this area here was the bounce area low for a while until I saw the look in and fail on the 26th. That's when I knew this is actually the bounce area low here. But there's no like one particular thing you look for. You just have to learn from experience. It's totally random. You watch markets move enough times and you just get a sense for where is it looking above and then running out of steam and coming back down. Where is it when it breaks back through this level on the upside? What does it do? Immediately go to the opposite end. What happens when it fails to break out there? It goes to the opposite end again. What happens when it fails to break out here? It goes to the opposite end again. Like, you just learn to recognize what it's doing. And then you know. But it is not an exact science. It's an art form. How about you make your profit by not taking trades? Design knob, I made the mistake of taking trades. Yeah. That's the thing about morning chop. It requires patience. When you open up inside the previous day's range and the market just grinds like this, it's worth waiting because it's like a spring that's getting tighter and tighter. The more it churns up and down, the more likely a great opportunity will come breaking out to the upside or downside. But you got to wait for the signal. And that's the hard part. Jitten says NQ is dragging. Yeah, it's a little bit more bearish than the ES, but they're pretty much both just chopping around. Next support is going to be around the halfback from yesterday at 16,229-ish on the NQ. Chop in the morning, trader take warning. Chop at night, trader delight. Bro, I worked on a cruise ship for 2.5 years. Of course I know the quote. I was a videographer out of a cruise line out of Australia for 2.5 years in my mid 20s, my adventure stage. It was a lot of fun. I loved it. Do you know where I can find it, J Trader? That sounds like a nightmare. I don't even know if I want to watch that, but I would watch it. Is that on like Netflix or something? Yeah, for sure. Let me know. I know the cruise line I used to work for, what they did when COVID happened was they just took all the passengers back and let them off the ship. And then they just cruised around for like 3 months with just the crew on board. I have a bunch of friends that were still on ships and like they loved it. It was like they had a paid vacation. They had very little work to do. And they just got to chill all the time on a cruise ship out at sea. Jitten, I do imagine that in the years to come, there will be some stuff that comes out about the last 2 years in markets. There'll be stories that come out about hedge funds that went completely bankrupt, and hedge funds have made a killing. I think there's going to be some stories that come out about the last couple of years, like The Big Short. There'll be some stories of like somebody who took a swing and hit a home run and somebody who got crushed. Definitely there'll be something around GME. Peter, I'm burned out. Are you trying to scalp this chop? Brian, the family offices on 1,000% leverage or 1,000% margin. Yeah, Jesus. There was definitely some of that going on. Well, Peter, you know my advice. It's the same as always. Just walk away for 2 hours. Go for a walk, run some errands, watch some TV, read a book, whatever. Just completely walk away from the charts for at least 2 hours. And then when you come back, you'll be fresh. Your body will have worked out all the hormones you've been building up over the last hour, and you can take it on. A new meme ETF started trading today. Oh boy. Let me guess, actively managed with massive fees. Cotton Dog, odds we hit 47.11 today. Of course, I can't really say, but one step at a time. If we can get above yesterday's high and find support, bringing some volume up here, we can get to 47.07. But what happens there, I couldn't guess. We might just get another look above and fail, or we might start to break out. But right now, it feels like it's straight up 50-50. There's no way to know. Brian, memes are dead. I don't know, man. I think memes are the future. I think the culture has changed. I think what's going to happen more and more is there's going to be groupthink in play in investing. I saw a really good video on Real Vision about this recently. About the idea that, like, when you combined the opinion of the masses, it's actually more reliable for trade signals than any one individual person. So I think what's going to happen is more and more people are going to collect online and create groups and analyze trade ideas as a group and then take those trades as a group, which is what we would currently call meme trading. I don't think that's going anywhere. I do think it'll have to become secret, though. It can't always be public. Yeah, Nunez, that's what I'm talking about. Wall Street bets. Trading Donkey, so are you saying everybody who looks at Wall Street bets is doing something illegal? I mean, there's whole apps being created for this right now. There's one called Public, I think, or Publix, something like that, where it's like it takes investment and it creates a social network around it. So you can join a group like a social network, like a chat room or whatever, and discuss ideas about a particular stock that interests you or whatever the case may be. As long as you're only using publicly available information, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's insider trading that's illegal. So do you think, Donkey, the regulators will do something about it? Will they limit the size that a chat room could grow to? That would be interesting. All right, well, across the boards, well, with the exception of the breadth, across the boards, the internals are saying we need a little pullback here. So on the ES, we got this node of volume over here for potential support, starting at about 76 down to 72. If that can't hold, the target becomes 46.63. On the NQ, that the next support is that halfback 16.233, and then below that the node of volume around 16.175. Salmon River, will they discriminate against pirates? Yeah, we definitely can't create that kind of thing because they'll come after us just based on the name alone. This group sounds shady. But all right, thank you all so much for joining me. I'm sorry nothing happened and the market just kind of bounced around here. But, balance leads to excess. The more bouncing around we do, eventually we will break out. And we should get a little momentum in whatever direction that happens. Until then, I look forward to seeing you all here tomorrow morning. Thank you very much. If you're in the Brigade, I shall see you on the private stream. If not, it's never too late to join. Link in the description. Alan, hi, I am long from 46.86. Please advise. 46.86. Oh, you're fine. There's some resistance right in there, but the market is probably just going to rotate around. So you'll have a chance to get out. If we start to get below that B period low, though, it could start trending down. So I was just talking about this yesterday, which is like one little trick I do if I'm in a trade and it's going against me. Well, first off, I always have a stop ahead of time, so I wouldn't have let the market go this far against me. But I just always say to myself, would I get into that trade right now if I was flat? And if the answer is no, it's always better to just exit. Even at a loss, it's better to just exit. Because it frees your mind. It frees that mental capital. But your entry is right about a half back, so the market should come back up there.